Please come. Good afternoon. Would you please say good afternoon a little more audibly?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Please take a seat.
Thank you, sir.
Your name is Srishti?
Srishti, sir.
Srishti. And you are a chemical engineer and you had outstanding academic career.
Thank you, sir.
And you took sociology.
Yes, sir.
You found it interesting?
Yes, sir.
What part of sociology as a discipline you found relevant in today's situation?
Sir, with regard to the women empowerment and with regard to the condition of women that we see today, very much reflects, as I have studied, it shows for example, the different parameters like the sex ratio, the kind of violence that is taking place against women. I see the parallel in the practical life in India today. And a lot of other, for example, the sociology talks about the social structure, which tends to continue the patriarchal mindset, and it is entrenched. So these are some of the observations which I found relevant today.
Okay. You see, Prime Minister recently said that it is time we move from women's empowerment to women-led development. What exactly did he have in mind?
So when we talk of women empowerment, we say that women should be financially independent or determined. So it's like a second person telling the woman to be in the place what she is. When we say women-led development, it is the woman taking control, and she is the one who is leading the development in different fields.
Are you aware of the Grameen Bank movement of Bangladesh led by Dr. Yunus?
Yes, sir.
What was this main feature of Grameen Bank initiative, which might be relevant to the matter that we are discussing now?
Yes, sir.
In what way? Could you tell us?
Sir, the quality of thrift and microfinance, developing that in women. He found that women are enterprising, and if they are given adequate credit facility and support, they can really nurture any business. So he actually, as far as I remember, sir, he collected women and he provided them with credit, and he found that about 95 to 98% returning rate was there for the credit, and the entrepreneurship was also flourishing really well. So
was it a case of empowerment or something more than that?
So I will call it something more than empowerment, because besides themselves getting empowered, the women were taking their own families out of the sheer poverty that they were facing.
So would you agree that this was a case of women-led development?
I'd say a starting case. Yes, sir. I do agree with you.
Could you think of some areas where women-led development could be feasible in our country right now?
So can I take a minute to think?
Yes.
Sir, I can draw a parallel in the self-help group that was nurtured in the country. Self-help group also, majority of the ones which are in country today are all women groups, and they have been really successful. This is the first one, I'll say, for a women-led development. And sir, going beyond, so in the sports sector right now, if we see, women are doing really good, whether it is boxing or weightlifting. So in a field which somehow feels that it is a masculine field, but then women are coming up really well in badminton and tennis. So we can use this sports arena for the women, the girls who are in the villages, for them to come out and represent our nation at the international level.
Now, you belong to Bhopal, and several decades ago, Bhopal had this terrible experience of the gas tragedy. Now, what is the status of that entire episode? What has happened since that gas tragedy in a nutshell, and where do things stand now? If you have to brief people on this tragedy and what has been the present state of play, what would you say?
So the disaster that took place in 1984 was the worst chemical disaster in the entire world. And if I were to just sum up the conditions, at that point of time, about 10 to 20 lakh people were affected. And in such a manner, not even immediately, but later on, they continued to have the health complications which the specific gas had inflicted on them. So the problem of rehabilitation was really severe. As far as the other support system by the government is concerned, the government has been providing pension to the women who lost their male earners. Then there have been support system for the education of the family, of the children who lost their parents. And compensation has been provided. But if I were to also highlight certain challenges, the factory area in which the explosion took place and the gas leaked, there, sir, even today, the soil is contaminated and the decontamination has not been possible. So now there have been plans that the entire waste will be taken to Indore, Pithampur, and there it will be treated. So that remains a work in progress, sir.
Okay. Which is the service which you would prefer to opt for?
Sir, in the services that
Yes.
Sir, the Indian Administrative Services.
Now, if as an IAS officer you were posted in Government of India and in the Department of Industry, what lessons would you have learned from the Bhopal gas tragedy to help you shape and advise government in regard to policies relating to the setting up of industries? Are there any lessons which you draw from that which would form part of your advice on policy?
Yes, sir. So the lessons which I'll draw from the Bhopal gas tragedy, coupled with my knowledge of being a chemical engineer, it is really important that the hazard management system of an industry works. So the first advice would be that making it absolutely compulsory that the hazard system is in place, because as found in the studies of this plant, it was found that the system was not working, the flare system was not in place, adequate budget was not being allocated to the safety system. So the first would be that ensuring the implementation of the hazard management system.
Would you advise government against permitting industries to be set up in areas around which people are living? Because one of the problems was that this was set up in a populated area.
Yes, sir.
Have you found that after the Bhopal gas tragedy, lessons have been learned, or still industries of a hazardous nature are being allowed to be set up nearer population centers? Do you think the lessons have been learned since then, or you think that much more work needs to be done?
So I will say to some extent lessons have been learned. It was a travesty that a plant which was manufacturing 7, which is used for pesticide, that was allowed to function in very close to the city that time. Now most of the plants have been shifted to the fringe area like the Mandideep suburb. So most of the plants are located there. But still, sir, I believe that more work needs to be done with regard to the effluent treatment system of such plants.
You have mentioned that you opted for papers 6 and 7, sociology, which sir had also referred to. Now, sociology, of course, is a study of society. Now, as regards Indian society, what are the factors which, in your view, are promoting tensions within society, and how do you think that these factors can be corrected or the problems can be sorted out?
So there are 3 chief things that come to my mind. The first is the caste conflict. The underlying notion of caste system and caste-based discrimination has been driving a lot of conflicts lately. The second thing, sir, is the communal aspect, wherein the differentiation of religion based on discrimination based on that has been driving conflicts. And so the third one is the ethnic and the son of soil movements that we are seeing in our country lately. They have also caused some tensions.
of course, or even if you opt for the IAS, you will find that the world is becoming a village. It's a period of globalization, and things which happen elsewhere in other countries would impact developments and policies in India. Now, you would have followed what the Chinese activities are in the South China Sea, for instance. How do you think China is pursuing its interests in the South China Sea region?
So I would say that China is aggressively pursuing its interest in the South China region. First of all, by acquiring the islands like the Spratly Island, the Scarborough Shoal. It has acquired those islands, and apart from this, it has also been creating certain artificial islands where its army could be stationed. So this is the first where the ingression of the navy of China could be seen in the South China Sea.
How do you see the relationship of China and Pakistan developing? Because Pakistan is a neighbor. Whichever department of the government of India you work in, you will be impacted by Pakistani policies and Chinese policies. How do you see those two countries working together, and are they working against our interests? What is your view on that?
Yes, sir. So lately China and Pakistan have been moving really close. Apart from the Pakistan signing up for the Belt and Road Initiative, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor has also come up. So I believe this directly ingresses on Indian sovereignty when it passes through the POK region. So it is also going against the Indian interests to that extent, sir.
Does the development of the port in Gwadar by the Chinese worry you?
Yes, sir. Because then the Chinese will be able to bring their not only their professionals but also their defense forces, and this could be a threat to the Indian territory, sir.
It is sometimes said that the Chinese string of pearls is a cause of worry for India. What do you have to say on that? Have you heard of their string of pearls?
Yes, sir, I do have.
And does it concern us?
Yes, sir. So the string of pearls indicates the kind of different ports that China has been acquiring, and also to the naval presence that China has been having in the boundary of Indian mainland. So this is a cause of concern because it can promote surveillance by the Chinese on Indian forces and the way Indian troops are stationed. This can hamper our operability of the defense. So.
Which Chinese leader had famously said, political power flows from the barrel of the gun?
So, I'm unable to recollect the name, sir.
But do you think that what he said, political power flows from the barrel of the gun, still guides Chinese policy?
To some extent it does, sir. Yeah, I do see that it reflects.
The question is, in India, do we believe that political power flows from the barrel of the gun, or do we feel that it flows from some other sources?
No, sir. India does not believe in the power of the barrel of the gun. India is a democratic country. We have a wonderful constitution that guides the Indian government as well as the administration. And we believe that the people are the sovereign, and all the powers rest in the hands of the people, the public.
So if barrel of the gun were, in your view, to be replaced by a phrase, what would it be? What would you say? Political power flows from what? In the Indian context?
The common citizen.
Or would you say from the ballot box?
Yes, sir. To be very precise. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am saying that.
Power of the ballot.
Power of the ballot.
Your good Srishti. Srishti, your mother is primary teacher. Are you aware of this Right to Education Act?
Yes, sir.
What shortcomings do you find in this act regarding the elementary education?
Sir,
What is the main cause of worry? We are not able to fulfill the aim of this particular.
So So the first challenge that comes to my mind is that there's been an excessive focus on the infrastructure which is to be provided, the playground, etc. Because of that, the focus on quality of education has gone a bit down. So this has been a positive concern.
Teachers training.
Yes, sir. Teachers training, adequate facility for teachers training has not been provided. Lately, we had an amendment which allowed the teachers to, the year to be inducted was increased to one more because teachers had not got trained. So this
What is the agroclimatic zone of Bhopal?
Sorry, sir.
Agroclimatic zone of Bhopal. Which region it is? Agroclimatic zone.
I'm not aware.
You're
sir.
not sure. Anyways, you have done chemical engineering. You know?
Yes.
B.Tech in chemical engineering.
Yes, sir.
So, which is the most important import of India?
Sir, crude oil.
Crude oil. So, where does India stand in refining of oil as compared to other South Asian countries?
So we are at a very good position with regard to the petroleum refining sector. But we have to import the crude oil, and petroleum refining is good, but otherwise the raw materials.
How capable we are in refining?
So
We are
not
dependent
about the
upon
exact
we are
figure.
dependent upon for our oil supplies on the West Asian countries
Yes, sir.
and America also to some extent.
Yes, sir. Recently we have started importing the crude oil from America as well to diversify our import basket, sir.
Hmm. Okay. What is Hoops stress? You might have studied pipeline engineering.
So can I take a minute to record?
Yeah. Anyways, can you recite the preamble to the Constitution of India?
Yes, sir. We resolve to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic to ensure justice, social,
good,
economic,
good,
and
good. Okay, ठीक है. You talked of patriarchal society, which, in your opinion, is the most important agency which can get rid of this particular menace, patriarchal mindset. Which is the most important agency you think? Social agency I'm talking of.
so the family.
Very wonderful. Family again, how?
So it's the family where our basic mindset, the way we behave, the way we nurture our relationship, it is nurtured in our family. So if the family, the elders in the family, whether it is male or female, if they take the initiative, if we are not propagating the stereotypes to our boys, then I think we can bring a change on longer terms.
Good. What do you think that NCC should be made compulsory in all the schools as government is contemplating recently? We read in newspaper that government is thinking of that NCC should be made compulsory in schools.
So I will not say that NCC should be compulsory, but then I will add that the benefits of NCC and the entire organization structure, what all activities are performed, they should be briefed to the students, and students should be left to their discretion to choose on
So you
it.
have won this NCC A certificate.
Yes, sir.
What is, by the way, motto of NCC?
So it's unity and discipline.
And what is C certificate? Why it is superior one?
So at the university level, as one progresses, there if one
It is a
able-
superior certificate, and
Yes,
C
sir.
certificate.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One of your hobbies is yoga, right? You perform yoga.
Yes, sir.
So who wrote this Yoga Sutra?
So Maharshi Patanjali.
So this book deals with yogic postures, or it is a book on philosophy?
So it is a comprehensive book which deals on yoga as a way of life and yoga as a philosophy, where we can connect with the God and become one. The yoga word is also.
What will happen if we become one with God?
So it is a state of nirvana, that when we become one with God, it is the ultimate position.
What
that
does
we can
nirvana
be.
mean? You lived very near to Sanchi Stup. So what does nirvana mean in Buddhism?
So to gain ultimate enlightenment, to know and understand God and to be one with the God.
But Buddhism doesn't believe in God. Okay, you are posted as collector in some district, and you are asked to justify the introduction of yoga in the minority schools. How would you do?
So there I will try to portray yoga and the way it really is, not connected to any religion, but as a collection of ideals which talk about the yogic postures, the asanas, the pranayam, which ultimately will help the benefit or the health and body of the person. It also includes the meditational aspects, the pranayam, so that the breathing can be controlled, the students can concentrate more on their studies. These aspects I will try and highlight, and then I will promote.
Who was Mr. Mahesh Yogi?
So Mahesh Yogi was a very prominent yogi who promoted the transcendental philosophy of yoga.
What is that?
So the transcendental philosophy states that any person who wants to perform yoga will be directed in touch with a yoga teacher, and he will be given a specific syllable or a mantra which he will be using to perform yoga.
Why did you go for this corporate world? It has got huge salaries and good attractions and all these unlimited avenues of development and salaries and all this. Why did you choose civil services?
So I wanted to utilize all the capabilities that I have to serve the people in one way or the other, in some way or the other. I want this journey to be a life where I will be caring about other people, not only about my own dreams, my passion, but about the dreams of the very common person and able to solve
Which
their
are the
problems.
most important areas which will find your attention first?
So the very first thing is education, sir. We have a very good amount of children and youth coming up. We need to make sure that they are trained and educated. And secondly, the health sector is something I like
These
to
two
focus
important
on.
areas can make a big difference.
Yes, sir, I do believe.
Good, wonderful.
Okay, fine. So, Sushti, tell me about your service preferences.
So I chose Indian Administrative Services first, Indian Police Services is the second, and then I chose for Indian Revenue Services, and Indian Revenue Services IT, and then Indian Revenue Services the second Customs, and then I chose the Indian Railway Traffic Service.
Okay, what about foreign services?
I have not opted for foreign services. Sir.
Why?
Which is such a change in the year that I appeared, as I was telling sir. 1, 2, 3, 4 we took the foreign service. But now the world has changed. India has developed. I think that is one reason why more and more people want to be here and work here. At the time when we were joining service, India was considered a very underdeveloped place, and people were looking at glamour outside. Now the glamour is right here at home. Good, congratulations for a great choice.
Sir was second ranker in 1976,
Yes, sir.
and sir opted IFS first.
Yes, he is an
And you have not opted IFS, no?
No, sir, I haven't.
But it's good. The world has changed, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I
India
India
honestly
has now
respect-
become
I
so
honestly
much better and
respect
attractive.
She
the-
wants to remain in India only.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I
you
honestly
better on the
respect
soil.
the work of the IFS officers, but this has been my personal effort that I work in the country and in a closer interface to the people. So that is why I believe that other services will allow me to do that.
Okay, fine. So you are from Bhopal. So tell me why Bhopal is famous for?
Bhopal?
Yeah,
So Bhopal is the city of lakes.
city of lakes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, why?
It has
Lakes
got,
are natural or anthropogenic or both?
so both and artificial as well as man-made as well as natural lakes are there. About 13 to 17 lakes are there, and at present 11 to 12 are in the proper states.
Okay, fine. Nowadays, number of lakes of India as well as world are suffering from problem of eutrophication. Say, for example, a very famous Loktak Lake of Manipur.
Yes.
So, what is this eutrophication?
So eutrophication is the increase in the amount of nutrients in the lake, because of if the effluents are discharged directly in the lake, then this amount increases, and due to this the dissolved oxygen level decreases. So it is a bane for the aquatic life.
You are chemical engineer, so tell me which nutrients, which chemicals mainly? Rank them 1, 2, 3, top 3, 1, 2, 3. Which are the main chemical components
In the lake.
in eutrophication?
So the first will be nitrogen, the second phosphorus compounds, and so third sulfur compounds.
Sulfur compound.
Yes.
Very good. So, what was the rank of Bhopal in the Swachh Sarvekshan 2017?
So Bhopal ranked second in the
Second.
Swachh selection
Okay, good.
after Indore.
Fine. See, the problem of biomagnification, bioconcentration is one of the drawback of green revolution because of use of more and more insecticides, pesticides. So, what is the difference between the green revolution and the second phase of green revolution?
So the second phase of Green Revolution, which is being promoted now, is a sustainable alternative to the Green Revolution that we pursued earlier. It focuses on the tenet of agricultural biodiversity and sustainability. So that also using organic compounds, organic fertilizers and natural farming techniques so that the pollution of the soil could be reduced and other externalities could be avoided.
Is it same to ZBNF, zero budget natural farming, or something different?
I'll say so. Zero budget natural farming is a part of the second green revolution and a very the same aspect towards the philosophy is same, sir.
Okay. Can you tell me what are the components of ZBNF? What are the main pillars, components?
So ZBNF talks of Jeev Amrita. The seeds that are used there are covered in a concoction of cow dung and other such natural materials. And then without any external fertilizer, the natural surroundings are allowed to flourish, and that is the direct aspect of ZBNF.
Okay, fine, very good. So, have you heard about Kyoto Protocol?
Yes, sir.
So, tell me the name of few greenhouse gases which are mentioned under Kyoto Protocol.
So some of the main gases can be the first one, the carbon dioxide, then NOx, the different compounds NO2, NO, nitrous oxide, NO.
NO2 is greenhouse gas?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then so SF6 is also a greenhouse gas. So I can recall only that.
Fine, very good. Nowadays, air pollution is a big issue, no? So, can you tell me the difference between this classical smog and photochemical smog? You are from chemistry background, so what are the main components of this classical smog and this photochemical smog?
So I'm not sure, can I try?
Sure.
So the photochemical smog is the smog which is which also has the sir, I'm unable to recall.
Oh, sure. Sir.
Okay. You have won a prize, I suppose, in essay competition.
Yes, sir.
What was the subject of your essay?
So the subject was corruption.
Corruption.
Yes, sir.
What is your point? Main point that you made in the essay?
So I wrote this essay in my 12th standard in the CBI competition. The main point was that the citizens need to be empowered and enlightened about the problem of corruption, and that they should take the lead in whether it is making complaints, whether it is trying to get information, and the citizens need to be aware, and they need to be aware that they can say no to a bribe if anybody is asking for a bribe. So it should not be made into a culture of corruption. So that was
You
the
see,
point.
in the last few years, the government had taken a major initiative to create an institution to combat corruption at high places. What was that law passed by the parliament?
So I believe you're talking about the Lokpal.
Exactly. When was it enacted?
So in 2014, if I'm not wrong.
But why has it not been implemented till today?
So the government said that the leader of opposition, is one of the members of the selection panel. He was not there, so there was an amendment passed after that the leader of the largest party after the majority party should be given a chance. So I think this is a thing in progress, and yet it is to be
Okay.
appointed.
You see, an eminent jurist made a comment on this matter, that this delay is primarily due to weak political will, or rather absence of political will. And it is because, I quote, the institution of Lokpal is not compatible with the parliamentary form of democracy that we have in this country, unquote. What did he mean by it? Could you give a thought?
Yes, sir. I'll try. So the parliamentary system is in our country. It gives the power to the parliament and to the elected members. Now, Lokpal is it will be an institution who will be selected by a selection panel. It includes the leader of opposition as well, but then it will be given an authority over the Prime Minister as well, who is the head of the government as well as the head of the entire government that is elected. So somehow a non-elected entity will have a power on an elected entity by who is elected by the common citizens. So this I think was the contention.
Good. See, do you feel that we are in the midst of an agrarian crisis? Crisis in the agriculture sector?
Yes, sir. I'll say we are in a transitional phase, and this transition is causing us a lot of distress.
Okay. You see, some states have taken some new initiatives to address the farmers' grievances and the problems. Some of these are innovative, new measures. Could you mention one or two such initiatives?
So the very recent innovative scheme is Raitu Bandhu scheme, in which per acre a specific amount of money is provided to the farmer so that he can purchase.
How much is the amount? Could you tell us?
So I believe it is 4,000 rupees per, I'm not sure, sir. So that amount will be utilized to buy the fertilizers, the seeds, all of this, so that he is supported and an income support could be provided to the farmer.
Is this a loan or a grant from the government?
Sir, it is a grant.
Could you recall a similar measure taken by any other government, also very recently?
Sir, a bit earlier than this was the Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana of Madhya Pradesh. It was a scheme in which the difference of the MSP and the market price will be directly transferred to the account of the farmer.
You are not aware of any measures taken soon after Raitu Bandhu scheme initiative was announced by some major states of the country.
So,
A few days back this was being talked about. Okay.
so in Odisha, the scheme has been
Yes,
announced.
what is that? In what way Odisha scheme is different from Andhra Pradesh scheme?
I'll have to read on that, sir.
Okay. What is the ruling price of Brent crude oil per barrel?
So I'll have to read.
Why is it considered important to watch movement of oil prices, crude oil prices? It is done every day, in TV channels. You see this information being put all the time.
So crude oil is a very important pillar of the Indian economy, and I will also add the Indian state as a whole.
Do you know
Because-
what is the degree of a dependence on crude oil imports?
So 85 to 90%.
What is your total oil demand annual?
So that I'm not aware about the total, but 85 to 90% we depend on imports.
Okay.
So,
What's the size of our exports? How much we export annually? And how much we import?
so I'll have to read.
Okay. In what way foreign trade, the volume of foreign trade and the composition of the foreign trade important for a country's development? Simple. Why is foreign trade considered important?
So first of all, like a country like India, we are very much dependent on the crude imports. The crude imports determine how our industries run, how our vehicles run. So it is the, I will say, the wheel of our economy. This is the first, because we'll have to be dependent on the foreign trade.
Tell me, what is the size of our economy in terms of GDP,
In terms of GDP, sir, so we are a $2.3 trillion economy.
When you look at China, what is the size of the Chinese GDP?
So China's economy is, I believe, 3 times that of India, close to 3 times. Sir.
And what is the size of Chinese foreign trade?
So we are, our share in the foreign trade in the world is just close to 3%, but for China this has been increasing to 15% of the entire world trade, sir.
15% of what?
Of the entire world trade, sir.
Okay. You must have read about China-US trade wars.
Yes, I did.
What has been the outcome of this trade war, which is being talked about now?
Sir, I'll say the both sides have been losing on account of the trade war that they have started. So this is a mutually, I'll say, a harmful policy that seems to be
See,
pursuing.
what is our current science technology policy? As of now, we have a science technology policy.
Yes.
Are you aware of the main features of our present science and technology policy? Did you get to see it?
So the main pillars of the science and technology policy are that utilization of science and technology has to be done.
When was
The
it formulated? Which policy are you talking about?
So the 2003, so I'm not able to recall the exact year, but it has been a while now that.
You see, in the science policy, a concept of technology intensity was mentioned.
Yes.
It is said, and I quote, that while technology intensity of Indian products varies from 10 to 12%, technology intensity of South Korean products is close to 80%. What does it mean?
So it means that for the production process, for say a similar product, we are utilizing manpower and not technology. For the same product, South Korea has been using automation and other advanced technologies, so that the productivity for them has also increased. This technology intensity needs to be worked upon in the case of India, sir.
Okay. Who composed Bande Mataram, and what is the position of Bande Mataram in the constitution of our country?
Sir, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay composed the Vande Mataram.
And the constitutional position?
So it is mentioned in the directive principle of state. I'm sorry, sir. It is mentioned in the duties of a citizen that he should be respecting the national song. This is the mention.
Who was Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay? Do you have any idea?
So he was a important freedom fighter as well as a poet of Bengal.
Poet? Really? He was a freedom fighter.
Freedom fighter, he was not.
When did he leave?
I'm sorry, sir.
You don't know. What is the difference between fundamental rights and fundamental duties enshrined in our constitution?
So the fundamental duties, the fundamental rights have been provided, is the reiteration of the rights which are there for the citizen. The right to equality, the freedom from the prohibition of discrimination, and these are the fundamental rights which have been provided by the
Yeah, but what's the
Constitution.
difference between the duties and the rights?
So the duties are not enforceable by the court of law.
What are the
But the-
duties? Fundamental duties. Could you name one? Mention one.
So to cherish the ideals of our freedom fighters and to renounce practices derogatory to women, to promote scientific temper. So,
What does scientific temper mean?
so scientific temper would be a perspective where we see our observations are based upon logical conclusions and logical way of thinking rather than haphazard traditions or customs.
You see, Miss Srishti, suppose you are present in a gathering, official gathering, and a point is made by someone who had some background of science that Einstein did not know anything and Sir Isaac Newton didn't really contribute anything. These things were known long before. What would be your gut reaction? Keeping in view that you mentioned just now that scientific temper is one of the fundamental duties. That is, cultivation of scientific temper is one of the fundamental duties of Indian citizens. What would be your immediate reaction when you hear this kind of statement?
So astonishment and then regret for the fact that this person is speaking something like that.
Not anger?
Yes, sir, I'll add that. Anger is bad.
Your interview is over. Miss Srishti, would you please
Thank
wait
you, sir.
outside?
Thank you so
We'll
much.
call you to give you our briefing.
Yes, thank you, sir.
You should say thank you, sir, a little more
Thank you, sir.
assertively. Okay?
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
We'll call you in a short time.
Yes, sir.
Your performance has been outstanding.
Thank you, sir.
You're an excellent candidate, and God willing, you'll certainly be through. Okay?
Thank you so
A
much, sir.
few things my colleagues, my esteemed colleagues would mention to you. You might like to
Yes, sir, definitely.
hear.
You're confident, but sometimes you seem to be dropping your confidence level. Don't do that, because you're naturally confident, you're naturally well poised, and don't let an awkward question or a question which you feel you don't know about make you lose your poise and your confidence. Because remember, confidence is half the battle won. I feel you have to brush up your knowledge, general knowledge. Of course, nobody knows everything. But when is your interview?
So 21st of February.
So there is still a lot of time,
Yeah.
and you have to update your general knowledge and general awareness on a very regular basis, and the sky is the limit. Sir asked you about Brent crude oil.
Yes, sir.
This is a very basic issue in oil pricing and understanding the global economy, because the movement of Brent crude prices determine a lot of movement of currencies and
Yes,
fluctuations.
everything.
It's a very basic benchmark. So you have to augment your understanding of global affairs and economic issues, and also day-to-day occurrences. I can ask you what is the dollar-rupee rate
Yes.
today. In government, you can be asked when you are functioning. You are supposed to be absolutely abreast of what is happening on the day. Third thing, please be sure that whatever you mentioned in your form, you are on top of that information. Because, like for instance, I quizzed you about
Yes.
your elocution.
Yes.
What happens 2 years ago? You don't remember. You have to be on top of the information which you have furnished. So that is just what I have to say. You are very confident, very well poised. I'm confident you'll make it, because there is a sincerity in your approach which comes through. But sometimes you will be misjudged for not being abreast of the latest developments.
Yes.
And faltering. Don't let that happen. Between now and the 21st of February, there's a lot of time. Get on top of the situation.
Yes, sir, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Christy, do not let elocution type episodes happen over there, है ना?
Yes,
Be
sir.
specific and clear.
Yes.
Contradictions should not creep in like this.
Yes.
है ना? They give a bad impression. That's
Yes.
what I told you.
I agree.
Okay. On the basics, you have to do a lot.
Yes, sir.
Since you are petroleum engineer, so good number of questions may crop up.
Yes, sir.
एंड डेफिनेटली होप्स स्ट्रेस पाइपलाइन की स्ट्रेस होती है
Yes.
है ना? आप इंजीनियरिंग में जाइएगा पता लग
I
जाएगी,
agree, sir.
थोड़ा जरूर कर लीजिएगा. एंड ऑयल रिफाइनिंग ऑल द इकोनॉमिक्स एंड केमिस्ट्री ऑफ ऑल
Chemistry
दिस
of
यू
it.
शुड नो. इंडिया में कितने सेंटर्स है? सर ने पूछा कितना जाता है कितना आता है. यूएसए इज अ न्यू पार्टनर.
Yes.
वेनेजुएला क्राइसिस है ना? ऑल दिस थिंग्स आर गोइंग ऑन. उसको जानिए आप. क्लियर?
Yes.
कहीं भी आंसर आपका ब्लेम नहीं होना चाहिए. किसी स्पेसिफिक एजेंसी को, सोसाइटी के सेक्शन को ब्लेम नहीं करेंगे. प्रोग्रेसिव आंसर देंगे, सॉल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड आंसर देंगे.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है? इतना. और बाकी हम फीडबैक आपको लिख के भेजेंगे पूरा डिटेल में.
Okay, sir.
शॉर्ट में इतना रखिए, बाकी यू स्टैंड गुड चांसेस, आई नो
Thank you, sir.
यू कैन डू वेल.
ठीक है, कुछ बेसिक क्वेश्चंस था आपका, जैसे ग्रीन हाउस गैस का, तो वो सिंपल क्वेश्चन था ये.
So I'll have to read on that, sir.
Exactly.
Something I'll have to read.
बिकॉज क्योटो इज वेरी मच इन न्यूज, तो बहुत ऑब्वियस है
Yes, sir.
है ना.
प्रियम्बल याद करना है ना,
Yes, sir.
भूल गए थे, याद नहीं है आपको.
ठीक है, जैसे कि आपके मदर परभनी से हैं, तो परभनी क्यों फेमस है पूछा नहीं हमने,
Yes, sir.
तो वाई परभनी इज फेमस फॉर.
Sir, the Neminath Hills of the Temple of Jain, very prominent.
आपको हम डेफ एनालिसिस भेजेंगे आपका, जो हमने किया हुआ है.
क्या क्या
वो
क्वेश्चंस
एविडेंस
बनेंगे.
खोल देंगे, तो आप उसे और प्रिपेयर करेंगे. हम सब नहीं पूछ सकते थे यहाँ पर,
हाँ.
बट वी हैव मेड वेरी वेरी प्राउड. आई विल
Yes, sir.
इस पे करिएगा.
You're not supposed to be an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
But the more you know, the more
Better.
answers that you can provide, the better the impression. But at the same time, there's never any shame in saying, I don't know, sir, because you're not really an encyclopedia. You can't know everything. Confidence levels must always be high.
Yes, sir.
आपका चांस वेस्ट ना जाए. वेरी गुड चांस.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, a few points quickly. You see, you made it in your very first attempt. So that is a plus. So there will be high expectation.
Yes, sir.
You have to cash on the goodwill that you have created already.
Yes, sir.
Okay? The board will see whether you have constructive and lively interest in India's internal and external environment. In today's globalized world, internal economy operates within a global
External,
framework.
global framework.
Therefore, external economic relations reflected in trade
Yes, sir.
are extremely important. So you ought to know our total foreign trade, composition of the foreign trade,
Yes, sir. And the breakup as well.
and also strengths and weaknesses. That's the reason why I asked you to define technology intensity. What you said is not right.
Okay.
And you probably did not see the National Science Technology Innovation Policy of 2013.
So I
That
was
is
not
summed
aware
up
of
exactly as you name, Srishti.
this. Yes, sir.
You know about Srishti?
Yes.
Srishti is the acronym of our
Yes,
policy.
yes, sir.
Technology intensity is defined as the quantity of knowledge inputs that have gone into manufacturing a commodity,
Okay.
which determines the value of that commodity.
All right.
Higher the technology intensity, higher is the
Higher the-
value of the product.
Yes.
So, when you look at the export, profile, you'd see what is the proportion of high-tech products and services in our total exports.
Okay. Yes, sir.
It is also necessary that these numbers, you see, are known to you. China's economy
Yes.
must be a matter of interest for you.
Yes, sir.
Equally interesting should be ASEAN
Yes, sir.
and also Pakistan.
Yes, sir.
Why is it Pakistan is now called the most dangerous place in the world? CPEC and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
So quickly you must brush up
Yes, sir.
your
This
current
was-
affairs, information base.
Yes, sir.
Second, you see this Rayatu Bandhu scheme. Yesterday, I think day before, Odisha government had announced a new scheme.
Yes.
There's a full page advertisement carried in all papers. Kalia.
Kalia.
So these are matters for you to take lively interest in.
Yes.
Rayatu Bandhu scheme, Kalia, and Jharkhand. And then loan waivers. The related issue is universal basic income.
Yes.
What you are passing on to the farmers is grant,
Is grand.
so that they don't have to borrow from private money lenders. There are issues like whether this will weaken the cooperative credit structure.
Yes.
The farmers will be dependent on the
Dependent
government.
on the government.
And whether this is progressive or regressive, whether it takes care of the small farmers, you must know this. What is the share of small and marginal farmers? 85%.
Yes.
Whether this will trickle down or whether this will help only the land-owning
Land-owning,
farmers,
yeah.
rich
Yes.
farmers. These are the issues which are currently being debated.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, it might come up, nobody can predict, might come up in the discussion.
Yes, sir.
Third point, the reason why I asked you about Bande Mataram, interest in other cultures other societies is an essential requirement to be in the IS. Now, if you are under no compulsion to say what you don't know. So you have this good quality. Very often you said, I don't know what you don't know. But in case of Vande Mataram, you made a guess. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay was not a freedom fighter, he was a civil servant. He was among the first recruits to the Bengal civil service, provincial civil service, as deputy magistrate and collector. He retired from that post as a loyal government servant. He was not a poet. The only poem probably he had written was Vande Mataram, which is a part of a novel. He was a novelist, essayist, a prolific writer on philosophy, science and related issues. So therefore, your interest should be not merely what is before you, but to look beyond that. That is a skill, a trait of mind which will be highly appreciated. That is, you don't confine your interest to your own horizon, own limited area.
Yes.
India is a huge country,
Yes, sir.
and you are a Marathi.
Yes, sir.
And Bankim Chandra derived inspiration after his visit to Pune,
Okay.
before he wrote Anandamath.
Okay.
Are you aware of this name, Vasudev Phadke?
Balwant Baladev.
Yes, sir.
Who was he?
Balwant Phadke. Sir, I've heard, but
Please,
I-
Vasudev Phadke. When he came to know during his visit about Vasudev Phadke's rebellion, he collected information and wrote this novel. So these are important things. So this trait is important. Otherwise, how will you work in Nagaland? Suppose you are posted there,
Yes.
or in Mizoram, or in
So the
Andaman.
local culture is also really important.
Rest is fine with you, and I suggest you might take one more walk before you go.
आप
But-
दिल्ली दोबारा आएंगी?
More importantly, you must have a grip over India's internal economy, India's external economic relations
Yes.
thoroughly.
Yes, sir.
Because you can't understand internal situation unless you relate it to the external
External
dynamics, you know.
आप दिल्ली आए तो एक मौका और लीजिएगा.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you on that, sir.
You'll succeed, definitely.
Thank you so much, sir.
Keep
Thank
your
you, sir.
confidence high.
Thank you,
Prepare
sir.
well.
Yes, sir.
Corrective actions ले लीजिएगा. You stand good chances of getting something very good. I know.
Yes.
है ना?
Thank you, sir, for your time. Thank you
All
so
the
much.
best. We will send you detailed feedback
Yes.
and we will be in touch. है ना?
Yes.
ठीक है.
Thank you, sir.
There is one